Hello, my name's Philippa Waller.
My name is Penelope Waller, and we are two of the directors at 4D Human Being.
And welcome to the 4D Human Being podcast. What's it all about, Pen?
It's all about your personal and professional relationships. It's about your communication skills, how you lead, how you work and build teams, how you are looking after yourself and your well-being, and how you are much more at choice. What do we mean by that?
Well, sometimes we can get a little caught in patterns in life and we can all be a little bit on our automatic pilot. So 4D Human Being is all about helping us get back to choice and being a four-dimensional human being. And your fourth dimension, of course,
is intention. So whether it's about your impact, your leadership style, your team dynamics, whether it's about your well-being, whether it's about your communication or your presentation skills, anything that involves human beings interacting with other human beings, 4D Human Being are here to help.
we're going to take a deep dive and look at some tools, insights, theories that are going to help you go from a 3D human doing to a 4D human being so that you can happen to the world rather than the world simply happening to you.
Hello and good afternoon.
Hello, it's a very soggy afternoon, Phil, I have to say.
It is, and it's only October.
Well, you know how you say how it's always nice to be out in the rain because then you come in and you're dry. I still feel wet.
Yes, I know, it's a soggy. It was soggy and doggy. Wasn't it?
It was really soggy and doggy.
Doggies in the stream, a lot of wet.
Your house has got a sort of slight whiff of wet dog.
Yeah, that makes it sound very... I'm glad I'm not selling it, because it's probably not unlike the baking of bread. Although for some people...
No, for some people.
For some people.
Homely.
For me, definitely.
How's your weekend?
Yes, very good. I feel gearing up. I feel like I'm talking about Christmas already.
Well, you've got your Christmas shirt on.
I've got my Christmas shirt on.
I've got a scarf on. I've zhuzhed.
You've zhuzhed.
Well, do you know what? I think we miss out on the accessorising over the summer because the scarves stop.
Yeah.
And now I'm back in the, just throw that jaunty scarf on.
Yeah, well, it can cover a multitude.
Love the autumn. Yeah.
Love the autumn. Very happy. Lit fires.
Yeah, very happy.
Strickles. That's Strictly Come Dancing for those of you who don't know that code.
No, although they're competing now, Phil, aren't they, with your 5 trophies and a medal, which Philippa has won in pro-am dance competitions.
I am quite literally going to have to get some shelves built.
You literally are. And I think it's interesting because you spoke about taking up dancing many years ago.
Ballroom dancing.
Yeah, through some quite difficult times, and it was a thing because it was therapeutic and enjoyable and all those kind of things. And now you're competing on the national stage, Phil.
Can I super segue there? Can I? Because I think there's a super segue. I'm going to dance my way into a super segue. I mean, that's doubling down, isn't it? One step, one small decision. And if we talk about AI, one small, which is definitely our experience, one small step, I'm just going to have a look through that door, or I'm just going to go to one class.
Can lead to a trophy, Phil.
Can lead to a trophy. And in fact, this reminds me, I think I've said this before. I'm pretty sure after I'd left drama school, and I don't know if I've ever told this story on the podcast, but I got offered to go to a playwriting course one evening, or they were, play reading. And Maxine Peake, brilliant Maxine Peake, who's in the brilliant movie I just watched last night, I swear. She's so wonderful. Big hugs and shout out to you, Max, who was in my year. She got the last place on the play reading evening. And the other sort of graduate class that they'd offered was improvising. Oh, yeah. And I said to Lloyd Trott, who was the dramaturg at RADA, I went, sure. He said, I think
Improv?
And he said, I think, honestly, Philippa, I said, I think it'll be your thing. I went, all right, I'll go to one session and I'm sitting at the back and I'm just watching. And that's all you've got to do.
Yeah, you've just got to take one step.
You've got to take one step, go to the room. And of course,
Of course you're brilliant at improvising.
Well, because once I'd started, they couldn't shut the door on me. But actually,
they were like, pipe down.
Yeah, pipe down. Can we pop her on another path? Open another door. I
think a slot's opened up in the play reading class.
Exactly. But it's a really good example of it's
got to take a step.
Well, it's because it's so easy to hear about something or to hear a title or an idea and just go, no. Yes, no, thank you, because I don't know it.
Yes, and also you don't have to think, right, I'm going to do this because I am going to win 5 trophies and a medal. Similar to AI, you don't have to think, I'm going to do this because AI is going to take over 80% of my job. Just do it because what might be interesting?
Yeah, because just because. Exactly. I mean,
open the door.
And in fact, I would offer, again, really nice parallel with opening your mind and arms to a new concept, a new way of working, something that could, really revolutionize how we work. So it could be very big, of course, it will be, is absolutely it's what I love about this is we so often talk about running ahead to visualize where you might be. If you want to become a good presenter, imagine yourself walking across that stage and the way that you're holding your body, the way that you're engaging with the audience, because it's so powerful to visualize those things. Your brain doesn't know the difference between your imagination and reality. But sometimes with things like ballroom dancing, AI, obviously direct comparisons, sometimes it's better to only take one step.
Yeah.
That wonderful David
Maybe
White.
have the dream.
Yeah, but you can sort of, you can sort of let it sit there. But actually, there's a lovely poem, I've mentioned it before, by David White, which is all about that, which is just take one step. Don't take another one. Just take one. And it's all about stay close, just one step, so that you're really minimizing the expectation. You're minimizing the change. You're just saying, I'm literally going to take half a step and I'm going to have a peek.
And that's all I'm setting myself to do. So if I do that, I've achieved what I set out to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about this in the context of AI, along with a couple of other things today. So on the last podcast, we spoke much more about the kind of mindset around AI, what we think of it, also how Philippa and I kind of got started using it with the help of our wonderful colleague.
And how we're now
Matt.
helping other people.
Yeah, and our kind of the different thoughts that we all have around it, the narratives that we hold around it. And today we're going to talk about some of those genuine fears, both at that sort of macro level, whether that's organisational or global, but also on a personal level. We're going to talk about some of
and are very real and normal.
Absolutely, are very, very real. We're going to also talk about some of the ways perhaps that we can take that first step that might be kind of easy for us. And then the third thing we're going to talk about is
comms and
my
soft skills.
goodness, the big one for us.
The big one that we definitely touched on last time. And we're going to talk about the duty.
The moral obligation.
Of organisations. We'll come to that. Okay. So
I think perhaps we'll start with the fears.
Always start with the fears.
You've got to start with the difficulties and then you go into the positives.
Eat the frog, is that a thing?
Is that a thing?
That is a thing.
That is a thing.
That is a thing where you do the hardest thing first.
Yes. Why the frog?
Why the frogs? Please write in on a postcard.
That sounds like something out of, the sort of island when you're in the jungle, Celebrity Island.
Or is it a sort of children's?
not that,
but or is it a children's parable? I don't know. Anyway, I think eat the frog means basically turn around and face your fears, which actually is a really. Oh, God, it's just such a life-changing thing to do with change. One of those phrases that I absolutely love, which will thread through all of this, is wait, stagnate, create. Yeah. And the thing about wait and stagnate is, first of all, we're stuck. But secondly, we're usually being held back by fear.
Yes.
Usually.
Yes. And the conversation...
Because we're not looking at the fear, we're sort of being controlled by it.
Yes. And the conversations you and I have had this week, and look, we can't possibly cover off every human fear and every specific fear each of us has around, or blocker we have around AI. But
we could... Death tick.
Exactly. I mean, there's that. But you and I have been talking about, yes, those sort of bigger global fears, or organisational fears that are very valid. But we've also been talking about perhaps some of the personal blockers or fears that are not necessarily spoken about. So we're going to talk a bit about those. But maybe let's start with those more macro fears, because these are things that are in the press and that we talk about. And I guess 3 big ones for me are fear of massive job losses, and that obviously that is personal as well as being on a global level. The second one for me is sort of that existential threat, literally the kind of the machines are going to take over. And then the third one is around inequality. I think those are probably the 3 that stand out to me in terms of those much bigger negative impacts that AI could have. I don't know if you'd add anything to that.
No, because my mind's going to the micro,
More,
to the identity.
more personal. So if we think about those bigger fears, if we go in reverse order there, so inequality, I personally don't think this is being spoken about enough, because I think in all sort of revolutions and technological changes, there's always the danger that there's going to be winners and losers, and that's very normal and in society. And we have to really think about that in terms of AI, both in terms of access to AI. There'll be people that cannot access the wonderful things it can bring, but there will also be people who kind of hold the capital or the assets in the world and can utilize AI, and those of us who lose out economically through the development of AI. So that's a really big thing that is a genuine fear. Mm-hmm. And I guess we have to look to governments, we have to look to organisations to kind of think about that. But we can equally have some say in that at a local level.
Exactly. I think what comes up for me is the difference between, I've created a really useful prompt that's helped me sort out all my utility bills. Great, I'm going to do that. And, I've created a great prompt that's going to help me sort out all my utility bills. My elderly neighbour,
yes, exactly,
and my mum would really benefit from this. I could easily help them do this, or I could set them up on this.
Yeah.
So there's something,
there is something on the local level.
And of course that does work on a macro, because was it the World Bank? We used to talk about this years ago, when we started working with creativity in organisations, that I think it was the World Bank set up basically an idea sharing forum, so that when I think a South American country was looking to do a lot of infrastructure and re-tarmac roads, because of the information and ideas that had been shared at a global level, they saved a lot of money and a lot of time, because they could already see from mistakes or innovations other people had done what was going to work in their climate and in their terrain. And so that sharing, so that, if we think about it on an organisational or a national level, that you're somehow sharing that information. Yeah. So it's not only that you are able to take on what AI brings you, it's that you're then able to output what you learn to do with that and how you've innovated, because that is going to definitely help at a bigger level, and then of course us personally. But the more that we're sharing,
that's right,
this is a shortcut, this really works, this is a quick way to do this, or this is a super accessible, there'll be different apps coming out, this is a really simplified version, this is if you just want to do X, Y or Z. So the more it's all sharing,
totally,
isn't it?
Phil. So you can think of, obviously there will be some limits in terms of what we can do about how inequality kind of unfolds as AI develops. I guess you can think about it politically in terms of who you vote for. You can also think about it in terms of your company values and principles that you have influence over.
Yeah.
And as you said, Phil, if there's not enough of that sharing in the system, then we can put that in the system ourselves. So there's things we can
definitely
do about that.
And it's an interesting mindset though, isn't it? Generally.
Yeah.
When you think you've worked something out, does it stop there?
Yeah. Or do you share it? Exactly.
Share it? Yeah.
I heard some wonderful stories about people who are sort of helping people get access to AI, and they talk specifically about people who are right down the bottom of the sort of socioeconomic scale, and also old people. Those are the two groups that are the most
it's a
vulnerable.
good example, and I don't know how the companies themselves would feel about this, but let's say you've paid for a particular access level on an AI platform or an app, and you don't use that much, but you could easily give half an hour or an hour to a neighbour.
Yeah, so there's that. So that's the inequality piece, which I think will be coming up more and more over the next couple of years. The second one is obviously the existential threat. And there is some talk around this in terms of the machines will get so intelligent and or manipulative that they will be able to take over either or both through how they can then manipulate human beings and influence us in ways that perhaps aren't where we'd want to go, but also literally how they could take over in terms of running the world. And it's not a non-existent threat. It exists. I did hear, I think it might have been again Geoffrey Hinton that said he's more inclined to think that whilst organisations and governments might be less open to sharing their advances in AI for competitive reasons, he thinks they will be open to sharing and collaborating in terms of that existential threat, in terms of machines being able to take over, because it's in no one's best interest. So we'll see how the kind of governance unfolds around this.
I think this analogy that I'm going to give is on the personal, but it's difficult, I think, for us to it's a bit like climate change and how we can stop that on a personal level when it's a global issue. It's how do we bridge that? So if I think about it on a more personal level, I think it's quite useful to catch ourselves in the binary and the polarization, that either it's going to be super beneficial and wonderful and we're all going to be super convenience and just be floating around, just
and
like
super healthy
in
with
some
all that
nirvana,
AI can do,
or it's some sort of dystopian horror film where the machines are taking over. My analogy would be, you've been single for a while, you're thinking about dating, and already you've run ahead to, it's going to be a nightmare. What if they don't live near me? Where are we going to live? I'd have to make compromise. Already everything is about what's going to happen in the future and all the problems with it. And of course, the reality about the human experience is it's progressive and it's nuanced. Yeah. That as things happen, it's a dance and it's a shift all the time. And I think when we're in fear when we're in fear, we become very binary.
Yes.
I'm either going to be safe or I'm going to be dead. And we lose all of the nuance of, well, if and when that happens, we might respond with this, and where are the lines? And the lines might go too far, a bit like social media. But of course, then we might go, well, hold on a minute. Seatbelts, they didn't cut, they weren't, when we first had cars, they didn't exist.
Yeah.
So it's just taking a breath and coming back to, what can I control here?
Yeah.
What's the dance here? That we're not, if we were a species that was completely unconcerned with our own destruction, we would have destroyed ourselves.
Well, exactly. The one thing I would say on that is,
I don't say we won't, but we haven't.
We haven't yet. No, we haven't yet. I guess the one thing I would say on that is I'm kind of torn in terms of how involved we do or don't want to get in politics. I mean, you and I have been very engaged with politics for the last couple of years, which I think is very useful, very important. And I think certainly in terms of that kind of governance of how this is unfolding, because it's going to be a big part of our society, I think it probably is important to get politically engaged at a certain level. I understand if not everybody feels like that, but, ultimately the power of the governance of all of this is going to be in the hands of the combination of large organisations and governments.
It's interesting, isn't it? As we're talking about it, and it's making me think that, of course, the challenge with anything like this is that we're talking about fears, we're talking about the unknown, we're talking about what might be coming, what might not, and how can we regulate. But of course, everyone is in the same boat of, we don't know.
No, that's right.
So that's what I mean about this dance is we go regulate. Well, it's, we can't let it spin out of control. But of course, we don't know what we're regulating.
No, that's
for
right.
At the moment. So it's very challenging.
That's right. And we spoke about this last time in terms of putting a narrative to something that is so unknown. And I would advise anybody to watch your TEDx talk, Phil, in terms of we're all improvising and making this thing up as we go along, and this is this is no different. And then the third kind of more macro global fear and threat, which we're not going to spend too much time on today because we did speak about this last time, and we're going to go down into the personal level on it, is of course job losses in terms of things becoming very automated, very efficient, and the impact that will have on the job market. Now, again, that is a genuine threat and always has been with technological advances, as we spoke at length about this on the previous podcast. So we won't go into too much detail about that, other than it's a very valid fear to have. I think what we're more interested in talking about today in that respect, in that third one, is to push it right down to the personal level in terms of, my job, your job, rather than thinking about it globally.
It's just making me think. Blacksmiths, there are a few left.
Yeah. That's right.
But there is less need for them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And even those, I mean, we've definitely met some. So, for example, the Weald Down Museum in Sussex, which is it's an amazing place. It's like stepping back in time in these old buildings, and there is sort of these artisans who work there. So finding a different way to practice your trade that is still useful in the world.
That you still have control over. Yeah.
So, and that's exactly what we want to talk about in terms of those more personal fears. So we didn't really speak about this last time, but of course, lots of us will have blockers and fears in terms of using AI. And we'll talk in this episode also about how to kind of open the door of AI. But before we do that, if we just think about, for those of us who hadn't or haven't sort of tried anything in the world of AI, or we're sitting there thinking, this is going to be bad for me, my job is going to change or be lost, or we're thinking, if I can just sort of cling on for the next 5 years, I'll be fine. Yeah. I guess something you and I have been talking about this week is, yes, of course, that sort of genuine fear and concern around job losses. For me, there's something else as well. And we were having a really good conversation with about this week with Matt as well, that there is an absolute truth to that. And is there also some truth in sort of not wanting to change anything about our jobs, to sort of thinking, I mean, even if AI could be sort of integrated into my role and I could stop doing some of the more process stuff, and that might free me up then to have more time to think strategically or creatively, or more time to build relationships and have conversations. You know, maybe I like sitting there doing my data on my Excel spreadsheet. Maybe it feels too challenging for me to spend time conversing and building relationships. Maybe I quite like spending time on my own and doing my work and then having my lunch and going home at 5:00. And maybe I don't think like that, but maybe that is a blocker to me thinking, well, I could totally transform this job and I could be engaging with all sorts of people. When really I'm like, I just kind of want to get through the day.
Well, absolutely. And that for me speaks to at least two things, one of which is Daniel Kahneman's System 1 and System 2 brain. And the second thing is our identity.
Yeah.
That if we think about the System 1, System 2 brain, we've talked about this before, definitely. But if you don't know Daniel Kahneman's work, that System 1 brain wants to be on autopilot, wants to do what it already knows, super, super lazy / efficient.
Yes.
And
we operate in that system most of our time. It's super
turning
useful.
up to work.
Yeah.
Pattern, always sit here, know exactly what I'm doing.
I can get lost for hours in an Excel spreadsheet. It's so satisfying.
It's energy efficient.
It's energy efficient. I'm in my world. I don't have to engage with anybody else. Nobody's interrupting me or making suggestions on what I know needs to happen.
Yeah, that's right.
It's quite a nice space to be in.
Yeah. Well, that's bridging slightly to the second one, but certainly that part of it that is, you know exactly what you're doing. It's very familiar. This terrain is very known to you.
There's going to be an end result.
Yeah. You've probably got half a brain on it.
Yeah.
So it's partly the unconscious is just doing what it does, and you haven't got to. It's not like trying to learn French.
No, exactly. So I did some sales analysis the other day for our organisation, and it was exporting data from our account system, downloading it into an Excel spreadsheet and formatting it. And after I've been doing it for about 10 minutes, I had to just repeat for all the different sort of sales. And I was just clicking and pasting and clicking. I wasn't even thinking about what I was doing. But at the end of it, I had this really beautiful spreadsheet.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's System 1. Now, System 2, System 2 would have been pen. I want you to brainstorm some ideas for a brand new series on our 4D on-demand digital platform.
Yeah.
And so,
which I love as well. But
but there's a different.
That was not the mode I was in.
It's a different energy. Exactly. So we're asking people to really fire up that effortful brain, System 2, which is learning new things. And it's the equivalent of trying to find a new route to work or to your child's school or to the gym.
And possibly spend more time with other people, which for some people is...
Well, I'm going to come to that because that's identity, a bit more. But yes, effortful as well.
Yeah.
But actually, what we need to do with trying to raise the pressure on our boiler or trying to find a new route to work is actually say, okay, I am good today or tomorrow or whatever, or next Thursday, I'm going to set aside some time and I'm going to consciously try to find that new route to work. So it becomes a thing that you're choosing to do, because every day that you could just keep taking the same route you went, it has to become a thing, like a choice, like you're going to go and buy that pair of trainers, whatever it is. Yeah. So you have to actually make that thing happen.
Yes.
So you have to decide, Wednesday, I'm going to have a 20-minute play with an AI app. So we have to actually make a conscious decision, and we have to go and sort of do that thing and fire up System 2, which is the effort. But once we started doing it, it will become System 1, of course.
Yeah.
And then there's identity, which you're talking to, which is about who you think you are and how you like to spend your time and the kind of person you are at work.
Yeah, and we may not even be aware of this, because we're doing the job that we've been doing for a while, and it's how we operate. We may not be aware of some of those patterns of who we are and how we show up, whether that's being a little bit more introverted or extroverted, so getting our energy from being on our own and doing tasks or being with other people. Or it might be that I am someone who is really good at using Excel or whatever it might be. So there'll be different things that we kind of tell ourselves about what our job is and what that means to us and who we are, that perhaps we are now being asked to step outside of. And that is one of the hardest things for us to do.
I agree.
Because it's at quite a deep level that we are connected to that identity around our jobs. And so if someone says suddenly, well, instead of spending 5 hours of your day processing that data, I now want you to spend 2 or 3 hours going out and talking to some people in another team. It's not that we can't do it. It's not that we can't get out of our chair and go and do it. But it's just so contrary to how I've been operating and who I think I am and what I think my job is.
And how you've been valued for all this time. I totally agree with you. I think that a big part of the fears is this identity. And I don't think we wouldn't necessarily give it that language, but that it's posing a threat to how I spend my time and how I bring value to the world. And that is huge. That is huge. That people really think I'm great because I do these tasks and I'm really efficient and I'm really good at them, like the Excel spreadsheets or whatever it is. And if that's going to be taken away from me, God, that feels like I can feel it even in my body.
Which is that's not me, but that's not what I do. That's not what my job is. And of course, there is a truth to that because that's what we have told ourselves and that's how we've identified ourselves and our job. It's not that it's impossible for us to do something different. I mean, I've said many times on this podcast, I used to be a chartered accountant. Still am, I think, once a chartered accountant.
Always a chartered accountant.
But, I certainly wasn't, building client relationships or delivering programs or getting up on stages. It just wasn't what I was doing. But as I now know, it's not that I can't do it because I do it. It's just that's not who I thought I was or what I was doing. And if somebody had said to me, 25 years ago, so I know that you're managing our whole sort of consolidation of our international accounts every month, but actually now what you're going to do is you're going to deliver the training to I'd have been like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not doing that. But of course I can do it. It's just that's not who I was.
Well, also, I think what you speak to there brilliantly is the difference between someone shoving you off a cliff and somebody saying, here's the first brick in quite a long path that you're going to take. And there'll be so many great experiences along the way. But you carry on doing what you do right now. We're going to start playing with some other. That's quite different.
Which is what we'll talk about in terms of taking that step into this world. But I really think one of the most important things is to sort of own our own blockers, because yes, there will be other things, we'll be fearful about our job perhaps, or perhaps we won't have clarity on what we need to do, or we won't have the systems in place, we won't really understand how AI could be used in our role. So of course there'll be lots of other things. There may also be a part of you that feels like if you step into that world, you're no longer going to be you, or no longer going to be what's valued in the world, and that feels very real, and you are the only one that can overcome that and take ownership of it. I mean, even if your company put all of the facilities in place and laid out a very clear roadmap, what AI was going to be used and how, you'll still feel like, yes, but that new role isn't me.
So, and if I was to give, I don't know if advice is the right word, but one sort of invitation in all of this, as I probably would, one of the things that I would offer more generally on human development, probably the big one would be learn to regulate your nervous system. Yeah. But the other one would be when you catch a phrase like, that's not me, is firstly, it's really normal.
Yeah.
You are so not alone. You are with the majority of human beings, so that we can all feel like that. And the second thing is to get curious about it, is to find a kind of slightly lighter, oh, that's interesting, I've just heard myself say that's not me, I wonder what might be possible here. It's just gently, not it's got to be me, or I've got to be completely the opposite to who I think I am, but just, oh look, I'm saying that's not me. How do I know it's not?
Well, and I think this,
but gently,
be nice to ourselves. And I think this is a good a good point to sort of mention again, which we have before, Ian McGilchrist's model of our brains, the left and right hemisphere. And there's a great animated talk online that he does. Now, we know relatively little about the brain, so let's just bear that in mind when we talk about this. But I think that model is a really good way to think about how we operate as human beings and how AI is going to impact that. So if you think about our brain in terms of left and right, so left is much more what we already know. It's also looking for facts, but it's also organising and sort of that sort of more data processing. Yeah. It's solving things based on information we already have, whereas the right-hand side of the brain is much more about meaning making, improvising, things that we don't know, all those kind of things. Now, most of us, unless we have some kind of problem with our brain, most of us are what we would call whole brain thinkers. We have the whole brain with which we think, but of course our education system and lots of the jobs that we do I like to think of it almost as if the left hand side of your brain has had much more of a weekly and daily gym workout than the right hand side of your brain for a lot of people. I mean, obviously for those in much more in the arts, they will have worked their brain differently. But if you think about the part of your brain that's been sort of worked and used and is really sort of on its game,
it pays the bills.
It pays the bills. So that, that's the part of yourself that will be working more for you. And so we're just used to using that part of our brain and thinking like that. So it's not that you can't, but it's almost like you've been sort of working out with one side of your body and your arm, and your other arm is slightly weaker. It's not that you can't build it up. It's just that you haven't yet.
Yes, well, absolutely. In fact, Ian McGilchrist goes further because it's The Master and His Emissary, his book, and his premise is that we've worked the left brain so much that it's become the master, and the right brain, all of our creativity, all of the potential possibility, what's new, what might be out there, has become the emissary, the servant. And actually he gives the analogy of we're sort of pootling along and both hemispheres are working, and left brain sort of goes, I could shape this up a bit better and get this bit better organised. And so it gets up on his, big throne or her big throne and starts going, right, you get up at 9, you go and do that, then you'll do this, then you'll do that. We'll have work systems and diaries that look just how I want them to look. We'll get everybody scheduled. That'll all be great. And eventually, as people are getting on the tube, getting on the train, getting in their cars at the right time, traffic, parking, left brain, how much?
And I do love all this.
But eventually, left brain goes, I can't see why we even need right brain anymore. They don't seem to be very useful.
They're not doing anything.
They're not really doing anything. We'll just be left brain. And then people go, my life feels a bit meaningless. Yeah. I feel a bit disconnected. I feel a bit depressed. Yeah. I feel a bit anxious. I don't know what's wrong. Just feel a bit empty. I feel a bit lost. What is that? And of course, right brain's going,
I'm here.
You've thrown me away. And we've sort of got it the wrong way round. Yeah. We sort of needed left brain to serve our humanness and our love and connection and our being and our experience and our what's this world and what's possible and hello, how lovely to see you. I love you. And we needed left brain to get us to that appointment on time, because then we can see the person that we love and share all this wonderful time with them, rather than I'm just sitting here cross because we said 5 o'clock and I don't care about the person. Now I'm just cross. We've got it the wrong way round.
Well, I mean,
So I think this is such an opportunity, Ken.
Well, isn't it interesting that AI has come along at this time when lots of people are talking about we've got to get creativity back to the core of our education system. And
Why are we doing this? The meaning.
In terms of meaning, in terms of depression, in terms of our future and how we shape and evolve us. I mean, so many things. That right-hand side of our brain is going to be key. And isn't it interesting that we've suddenly got this piece of technology
that we can outsource,
that we can plug in?
I know. And look,
so if we were making meaning out of this, we'd be like, sure, that's come along.
Well, because now we can free up to be even more human. I mean, I just feel that part of it makes me feel very excited. Yeah. And if anybody's going, well, but it's all just nice add-ons. Why do we go to the theatre or watch Netflix or read books or want to tell each other stories
or watch comedy
or want a sofa in a certain colour or a picture on the wall
or draw or put up a Christmas
or
tree
see a view why do we do any of this?
Or want to dress nicely?
Why do we do it?
That's right.
We wouldn't bother.
No, exactly.
If it wasn't the absolute stuff. I mean, I always, one of the things for me is that, when people make a lot of money, they buy art.
Yeah.
They don't They don't just schedule themselves more, they buy art.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's that I think is such an opportunity to become more human. Of course, we would say to become more 4D human.
Exactly. A quick word from us at 4D Human Being. If you're enjoying the show, please do click follow so that you can have the 4D Human Being podcast instantly in your feed. And we'd love it if you liked and reviewed us. Let us know what you think.
Please do think of 1 or 2 people that you could share the 4D Human Being podcast with. Somebody who would really benefit from the content you're listening to right now.
Back to the show.
And of course, the other thing about this, if you were really sort of meaning making out of this, of course, it's very, very difficult. In fact, virtually impossible for us to fire up that creativity and that right-hand side of the brain when we're living in fear. It's very, very difficult for us to do that. And of course, lots of us are quite fearful. I mean, in terms of how the world is speaking at the moment and politically, there's a lot of fear in the world. And that creativity gets kind of overwhelmed with the fear and the catastrophizing. So we've got some work to do as human beings in terms of releasing ourselves from the fear and pulling ourselves into creativity 100%. For so many reasons. And AI is just the latest. It's almost like, we talk about this a lot. It's almost like the universe will keep giving us things until we learn the lesson that we need to learn. Yeah. So we need to release the fear and be creative. Yeah. I'm going to give you another thing that might you do that. AI is going to push you to do it. Yeah. Are you going to do it this time?
Absolutely. And it's really reprioritizing, because a lot of us will know the experience of, if we've got a bill to pay or a poem to write, we'll pay the bill. Yeah. So exactly that. It's like we're being pushed to reprioritize what the experience of being human is. So I think that's very exciting.
Which leads us on to, if you do have any of those feelings, and they're perfectly valid. I mean, I would certainly say that about myself. In terms of my age and what I do, which is very kind of human related, I was thinking, I don't know if AI is going to be necessary for me, but it is really useful and I'm really enjoying using it. And we spoke on the last podcast about how our wonderful colleague Matt introduced us to AI, and we started using it to kind of get over that initial blocker, if you like. And the way that he did that was in a very specific way. But you can think about this in terms of that first step to unblock. Like you said, Phil, take one step. You can think about this in terms of edge theory, which is change theory, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So if you think about what helps you get over the edge, is it the bite-sized chunk? Is it doing it with a friend? Is it making it into a bit of a game? Is it actually having a coach or a mentor to help you get over it?
Is it being pushed?
Is it being pushed? Exactly. But it's true, isn't it? For some people, it's like, you'll learn that you'll survive jumping off a high board when you've been pushed off of a high board. Exactly. So we've all got different ways. Some people do like to leap. Some people like to, edge their way down.
Or do you want to watch, the rest of your team do it first and then you'll do it? Or do you want to be the one that leaps and sort of shows everyone else what to do?
Exactly.
We all have different ways that we step into change. Yeah. You may or may not be aware of your edge.
Yeah.
I am certainly somebody who wants someone else to do it first.
Yeah, see, I want to do it first and I want to do it. Whereas some people might want to learn about it. Might want to watch a video or read.
That's why you ended up in casualty with a broken shoulder when we went sledging.
Exactly.
Because you were like, I'm going first.
I'm going down. We're going. Exactly. So we're all different. So first of all, really normalise it, that feeling edgy at the edge is completely normal. And what helps you? If you think about a time where you have moved through change, whether that's sort of the persuasion to move house or go somewhere new on holiday or move job, whatever it is, what's helped you? Yeah. Does it help you to, go for a run, take a deep breath and jump? Does it help you to really do a lot of groundwork and loads of prep so that, it's the equivalent of, I'm not moving into the house until the last picture's hung up? Or are you someone who can move in when there's still tarpaulin, on the roof? Do you need to do it with a friend? Do you really love, if you were going to a new place or doing a new sport, would you want to go and do it with a friend? Or would you want to go and do it on your own and screw up on your own? Or, you'll know what you're like.
Totally. So I've got, there's a couple of really good examples of this. So we spoke last time also about the book Switch, where you can think about change both sort of intellectually, emotionally how you feel about it, but also the ease with which you can change. And a couple of really good examples for me have been, we mentioned this last time, that Matt wrote us just a really brilliant prompt, which we'll talk about writing prompts in a bit, so that I didn't have to do that bit. I just
You just got the benefit.
I fed it in, watched what happened, and went, wow.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you can do in terms of either for yourself or for somebody else.
Yeah.
The other thing I've done is, I said this to you the other day, that Google have now reduced the number of search items that you get fed back from 100 to 10
on any search.
On Google
yeah.
search,
yeah.
for various reasons, which we won't go into. But of course, I don't feel as satisfied now when I do a Google search. So it's prompted me now to put an AI app on the front of my phone, and I'm now going to be using that for my searching. So that's an environmental thing where now that's going to be easier for me to use. So there are different things we can do that just make it easier for us process-wise to start using it.
And one of the things I would also offer is, what do you know gives you pleasure? So I love language. So one of the really pleasurable things for me with AI is to use it like a thesaurus, and really specifically. So can you give me, words that also mean, to get working together that begin in P? Because that usually it's because I'm looking for words, but I find pleasure in language. Yeah. So what's your version of that? What do you like? Yeah. What do you sort of enjoy? If you think about a task, even a task that you're worried about might be at risk, what is it that you enjoy about it? Do you enjoy, the language like I do? Do you enjoy data gathering? Do you enjoy the sort of organizing of things in a certain way? What is it that you love? Yeah. And start there. Yeah. Start there.
And equally, it might be, as Phil, as you said,
ways I can wear my hair if I'm wearing a polo neck. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. Or it might be that you ask your leader, or as a leader you set your team a challenge, so you kind of gamify it a bit. So there's lots of different ways you can just get people into it, because I think sometimes we can be a little bit negative or criticize people because they're not changing, they're not trying something new, but it's often not that people are poorly intended. It's just there is a genuine blocker there that I literally don't know how to do it, or I don't have access to what I need to do, or so there's lots of different ways we can just take that first step.
You could do a which is exactly what Matt did for us. You could do a prompt template,
give it to somebody.
Give it to your whole team. They've all got exactly the same prompt. You can say, go away and play with this, and then if you want to, you can tweak that prompt. And see what happens. If you want it to give you something a little bit different, a little bit specialised according to you, what would you love? And so that you really, the amount that you're being asked to do is the 5%.
Exactly. So this is what we call edge. This is really thinking about it as taking that first step. You're opening the door.
And if you haven't got anybody who can write prompts, you can definitely Google that, go online, go on Instagram. They're everywhere. Yeah. People advising you how to write prompts.
Yeah. And then before we come on to, I guess, what one of the big things for 4D, we're going to talk about your job role. Mm-hmm. And again, part of this identity and part of this kind of perhaps waiting to see what happens is, well, this is my current job. This is what I'm currently responsible for. And I don't know what the new job is going to look like. So I'll wait until somebody tells me what that's going to be, because I don't know. Yeah. And that's, in a way that may be fine. There may be organisations that are, writing lots of new job descriptions. I guess our offer would be to perhaps take that on board a little yourself, if you can, and think about what's your current job role. And you talked about putting this in a Venn diagram.
I love a Venn diagram. So Venn diagram yourself with AI, right? So you've got AI.
Current job.
So what do you think AI might be able to, and even if you've never used it, what do you think AI might be able to do? So if we use us as an example, what
it might be able to do from your current job.
Yes. Yeah. You could be pretty sure that it could format facilitator notes or a set of tools for a proposal. In fact, Matt's just got it to write proposals and to give sort of price options and things like that. So you'll be pretty sure it can do that kind of thing. And then you could do the crossover of what could both of us maybe do, that maybe stuff that you really like that you might want to hold on to. And then in the other one, what are the things that I don't really think it will be able to do? And first of all, write those down. And if you really don't have anything for that, interesting, because
use AI.
Yeah, exactly. Use AI. Exactly. Well, honestly, that we were joking about this last night at a conversation I was having. Exactly that of using AI to ask what AI can do. I mean, it's just a loop, the eternal loop. But the other thing about that last one is start to ask yourself from the perspective of these two criteria: input and output. So, what is it that AI couldn't possibly do without your input? Because this is already your unique selling point.
Asking questions.
Yeah, asking questions, giving it instructions, telling it information that it doesn't know about, giving it a nuance
finding
about
out stuff from clients or stakeholders.
Exactly, giving it certain information about a specific client and actually correcting it on some things, on and on and on. So it needs input and then it needs output. So it can't interpret what it shoves out for your job.
In fact, sometimes interprets it wrong.
Sometimes interprets it wrong. It needs correcting. So it needs interpretation. And then, of course, the piece we'll come on to is it needs share. It needs, then what are you doing with it? Like, it's now a thing in the world. And of course, the thing that we're really good at, us human beings, is the connection, is the communication. So
and implementation as well.
And implementation.
So the doing.
It's actually got to happen. Yeah. Exactly. So
and the new ideas that come out of what you've done.
So then loop back into more input. So even if you start with those very broad ideas of, all right, if AI is in the middle doing some of this sort of processing work for me, what does it absolutely know? If you had an assistant and it was doing all of that, but you're the expert.
Yeah.
What do you need to tell your assistant or your coachee or your sort of mentor that it needs to do for you? And once they've done that for you, now you're the expert who's now going to go into the world and use this information to do something with. So you can fill those with more and more and more potential, more ideas to input, and more connection, expansion, communication, interpretation, ideas at the other end.
Yeah. And depending on what you love doing, it might be that you want to, like I gave the example a minute ago of, instead of processing lots of data, I'm sitting there and analysing the data and thinking, what does this mean? What could we do with this? So depending on what you like doing, or maybe you're somebody who just wants to have more time for conversations with other people. So depending on what you love doing, if you look at your current job and kind of pull it apart a little bit and expand it into, what could AI do? What am I not currently doing that I might love to do? And effectively start kind of crafting your own new job spec.
Yeah.
And alongside that, your sort of AI assistant job spec. And it might be that's a work in progress that will start shifting and changing. But it's the start of you taking control of what your job career might start moving into. Yeah. And I know it sounds a little bit like, oh, this is just, kind of pie in the sky and I'm kind of making this up. I guess we would think about what Joe Dispenza talks about, which is, the best way to predict your future is to create
Absolutely,
it.
Pam.
And someone's got to do that work at some point. And we know lots of organisations that are really trying to think and future-proof and think, well, how might this look? How might systemically we be working together? And no one's really got the answer
exactly.
to that.
If I think of an example, and this again speaks to the idea of sort of moving away from the binary or the polarization. So, for example, let's say the thinking is AI is going to take over customer service, like that. So it's customer service jobs gone. And there's a different way of thinking about that, which is, this is interesting. Let's say AI is going to do a lot of customer service work now. I'm going to look at those results. I'm going to look at what issues get resolved really well through AI. I'm going to look at which demographics respond really well. I'm going to look at what medium that works on. Is that a voice bot? Is that a sort of typing bot? Or is that by just generating emails? Like what's the best way? And where are the gaps? Where are people not getting issues resolved? What demographic? What particular issues? Great. Here's an opportunity. So what we need in this area is either we need more inputs into AI and find a different way, or with that demographic, with that issue,
taking them out to lunch.
Yeah, we need a special team. Yeah, and we need a special team, and we need to get them upskilled because there's a real opportunity there. We don't want to lose that market. In fact, we want to expand it because it's an aging population. That demographic is growing. We are going in. So AI is going to hold all of that, and we're going to specialize here. And that's, if you get curious about what AI can do, what the results are showing you, what the data is showing, then suddenly it's going to give you all this information about other opportunities, which brings us on to the comms bit, of course.
And just to finish on that, if that feels too big, or if you feel like you're waiting for somebody else to give you that information, I guess my offer would be just take 5%. Take 5% of your job role.
Yeah.
And see if you can move 5% to AI and do 5% differently or add something new. That just
nice.
a really small step.
Or like one thing.
Yeah.
One thing AI can do for me and one new thing that I'm going to do that AI can't do. That's a really nice
small step.
That's a really nice model.
Which does bring us on to our next piece, which is, if we think about sort of the inputs into AI and the outputs from AI and that right-hand part of our brain, which is connection, meaning making, improvising, relationships, all of those pieces. Of course, we are sitting very much in this world at 4D Human Being. We are called 4D Human Being. We are in the world of connection, comms, influencing, relationships, leadership, all of those, what have up until now been called soft skills. And I think there's a stat on this, isn't it? That in terms of corporate investment into training, is it something like 85 and 15%? Like, so that 85% of training budget goes on hard skills, so technical and vocational skills, and 15% goes on what is up until now called soft skills. And we would argue
switcheroo.
I was going to say switcheroo time.
Yeah. They're not soft skills. They're core skills.
They're core skills.
They're core human skills.
Yes.
And what I loved was the conversation you had this week, which really is a wonderful invitation / challenge to organisations, which is that rather than leaving people to feel like, oh, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
What do I need to do? How am I going to cope? What if my job goes? Is that it's a moral obligation for organisations to say, right, if this is a shift that's happening, we are morally obliged to upskill you. Well, before we say, right, you haven't got a job,
or you're going to be doing this instead of this,
is to upskill you in those core skills, as we will
that we know
call them,
that we know our workforce needs,
that we know that it's going to be needed in the workplace, and we know that that's going to keep you in employment. It might be a slightly different job, but you're going to have the skills.
Totally. And again,
as you would skill someone up in health and safety.
Exactly. And again, obviously we are sitting right in this at 4D Human Being. But if we think about the skills that we are definitely going to need, they are going to be communication skills, relational skills, influencing skills, and creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, that is what we're going to be needing to upskill. Yeah. So that 15% is going to have to shift massively. And I think organizations, team leaders can do an enormous amount for their teams and for their employees in terms of making people feel much more open, engaged, and curious about what's possible, because they'll feel like, if my job now involves me going to talk to a different team in the organization because we need to collaborate more rather than send data across the road or the pond, I feel I have the skills to do that now.
Exactly. And if you think about what is going to be needed, we are wanting so much human experience. Yeah. And if you think about your energy, your ability to engage, your ability to have ideas of how to bring people together or to get them interested in something. I mean, if you think about something, I don't know, it could be utilities. That if everything is now being processed on an equal level, because all of that data is now in AI, so all of a certain company across competitors can all basically match because they've all now got the same level of data information. Big data is just going to kind of flatten the field. But let's say, what's the differentiator? The differentiator is, I'm with that company because once a month they get us all together and they, give us some kind of experience online or in person, or they're so good. The way that they email us and their customer service, or they'll call us once a month, and they're so funny and they're so engaging, and I really love the way that they really understand what it's like to try to work my board, whatever it is. Well, that is going to be the differentiator.
Totally. And it's really it's going to come down to the personal, because AI is going to be able to do a lot in terms of that macro level. So if I think about, I've had quite a lot of contact with utilities this week, Phil, as you know. And if I think about some of the things I learned this week from having a water utilities guy come and visit my house, but I didn't even know what my stopcock was. But, he told me some things about water usage and where the pipework was in the house. And then I thought, if I had my electricity person come round and just spend, 45 minutes with me and say to me, right, well, do you realise that if you changed this, and this, you'd probably save X, Y, and Z, because it's very challenging for us to read all these leaflets and sort of work it all out. But they might have time to do that.
That's right.
And we're saving the planet as well.
That's right. I'm going exactly. They come around. I've got 30 minutes with you, and I'm going to give you a quick tour of your house in terms of this, and I'm going to make it so easy for you. You are going to know how to deal with it.
And I'm going to save you X, Y, Z.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
And again, that I'm not in that industry, and that's just an idea off the top of my head. I mean, there's so many things we can do. Yeah. I really, really believe that a part of what AI is going to do, even though it's going to be quite a sort of consolidating and macro piece of technology in many ways, I think it's going to free us up to be more present, local, and personalised.
Which is what we need. Catchphrase. I agree. So let's bring that right down as we finish to your kind of, the nitty gritty of your daily life. What are those opportunities for you? What is it that AI can do that can free up an hour, let's say, of even starting with an hour of your week? And what would really benefit you and your team to do in that hour? What do you know would really shift the culture, the enthusiasm, the idea sharing, the connections and collaboration between your team that you've now... Because how many people say to us, we haven't even met for 3 years.
No.
We haven't even got in the same room. We don't really know each other.
So true.
And then we wonder why there's dynamic difficulties and people are, I'm not talking, it's siloed. This is such an opportunity. So you can look for those tiny micro opportunities of, all right, I reckon we've gained at least an hour a week. What are we going to do with that?
Do you know what I'm going to do, Phil, straight after this? I'm going to go and type into Claude, which is my AI of choice. Other AIs are available. I'm going to type in, how can Claude, how can you help with my daughter's maths homework? Because then I might free up my afternoon, Phil.
Come on, Claude. Now we're challenging you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the 4D Human Being podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Do take on board some of the insights, tools and tips, because every time that you try something new to get back to choice, you are making a vote for the you that you want to become. And I love that phrase, Pen.
I do too. And please do share this episode with somebody that you know would really benefit from the lessons and learnings we've been chatting about today.
And of course, if you're interested in more from 4D Human Being, do get in touch. We run workshops, trainings, online, in-person, conference events and keynotes. We've got the 4D On-Demand platform for your whole organisation. And we do have a free Essentials membership where anybody can sign up for absolutely free to access some of our insights, tools and tips. So do get in touch with us if you'd like to hear more. We cannot wait to hear from you and to carry on the conversation.